You know, they do focus groups after the debate, and we won every poll. We won. Did you see those polls? Every poll. 80-20, 90-10. I'd get a list, but we don't want to put, but every poll. But CNN did a focus group. And by the way, Frank Luntz did a focus group. And the focus group, that one we liked, Frank Luntz, good guy, 18-4 in favor of Trump, right? CNN did a focus group. Unfortunately, oh, it's so sad. They got caught trying to convince people and find the right people so they could give a phony vote. CNN is a disgrace.
This is America Talks Live, Hour 2, where the most important content from this program, comes from you. Your calls, questions, and comments at 1-877-639-7629. That's 1-877-NEWSMAX. Of course, we're not the media. We're Newsmax TV, so our coverage differs from the alphabet networks and their cable cousins. And unlike those elitists, we don't tell you what to think. Now, you and I just saw and heard what Donald Trump thinks of post-debate focus groups. Mr. Trump on the stump yesterday in Pennsylvania, and subsequent stories confirm at least some of his suspicions regarding CNN. Speaking of stories, Miranda Kahn updates us on the headlines right now. Miranda?
Thanks, JD. WikiLeaks strikes again. New emails taken from HillaryClinton.com suggest part of Clinton's campaign strategy was to promote Republican candidates like Ted Cruz, Ben Carson, and Donald Trump. Now, according to the leaked memo, the idea was to force candidates to commit to extreme conservative positions. It was meant to undermine establishment conservatives with communities of color, millennials, and women. Reince Priebus says that he's sticking with the Republican nominee. In a statement to CNN, the RNC chairman said that we are in full coordination with the Trump campaign. We have a great relationship with them, and we're going to continue to work together to make sure he wins in November. New Jersey governor and Trump surrogate Chris Christie breaks his silence on Trump's open mic moment when he co-hosted a sports radio show in New York.
Let's be really clear. It is completely indefensible, and I won't defend it and haven't defended it. You know, that kind of talk and conversation, even in private, is just unacceptable.
Polls taken in the wake of Trump's lewd comments show that he's losing ground to Hillary Clinton. One poll by NBC News has him down 14 points nationwide. Donald Trump, though, he has his own take.
There's no way we're 3 down. Even the polls are crooked, I'm telling you. Look, we're in a rigged system, folks.
Samsung pulls the Galaxy Note 7 from shelves and has now asked customers to stop using the device entirely. The smartphone's battery has a tendency to explode and catch fire. For much more on all of these stories, head on over to Newsmax.com. Back to you, JD.
Thanks very much, Miranda. Look forward to talking to you later with your prime preview for what happens tonight at 8 Eastern. Now, the narrative that the leftist media wants you to believe is that the GOP is in disarray or worse. In fact, headline writers at the Washington Post, and they got to be loving this, they call it anarchy. Take a look at the headline in the Post today, and I'll just read you what it says. The GOP tumbles toward anarchy. It's every person for himself or herself. So, have the never-Trumpers returned? Did they ever actually leave? Or have the personal ambitions of Paul Ryan, cloaked as political pragmatism, basically been applied to try and derail the Trump train? For more on all of this, we're pleased to be joined from Newsmax Washington by conservative strategist Jack Burkman. Jack's also the host of Behind the Curtain, which you see Saturday mornings at 10 Eastern, right here on Newsmax TV. And Skyping in from not too far away in terms of D.C., because he is a professor at the University of Maryland College Park. He's also a syndicated columnist and a real smart guy, one of the few economists I really enjoy visiting with, Peter Morici. Gentlemen, it would appear that the dominant media culture has decided, forget WikiLeaks, we're going to go with Republicans and disarray. And I want to get your take on what Nicole Wallace, ex-Bush staffer, ex-McCainiac, said to Brian Williams on MSNBC and she puts the blame all on Donald Trump. Let's look and listen.
It isn't known that there's a lot more tape out there. I said last night that what you're watching is the bottom fallout of the GOP.
So you got that. And before I get your comment, just one more thing. The Gateway Pundit reports that it would appear Dan Sehner, one of Paul Ryan's top advisors, perhaps even leaked the Trump tape to the Washington Post. If you take a look at his recent tweets, he seems to be just instructing the elites in the media what to do. Check this out. Note to media: if interviewing Trump surrogates today, focus questions on tape. Besides Rudy, those surrogates were all hiding over the weekend. And then he comes back with this: now Trump surrogates magically appear because debate wasn't a disaster. You should interview them about the tape, as though the debate never occurred. And I got to tell you, Jack, we've been around D.C. a long time, but this collusion between so-called establishment Republicans and the dominant media culture is unsavory, to say the least.
Yeah, you're right, J.D. Maybe we've been around too long. After this election, I think too long. I think our friend Paul Ryan, and you and I both love him, but he's making terrible mistakes here. Ryan, all he had to do was do nothing over the weekend. He didn't have to offer any commentary on the Trump tape. The only thing I would have said if I were Speaker is I would say, look, I support our nominee. I'm voting for our nominee. As Speaker, I'm focused on our House members and our House races. That's what I do. I don't really have much to do with the presidential election. But no, Ryan wanted to be an active commentator. He wanted to create a big circus surrounding not wanting to be with Trump at the event and this, that, and the other. He's looking for opportunities. The problem, JD, for Paul Ryan, he's being perceived by conservatives as a moderate. Now, to some extent, when you become Speaker as a Republican, you've got to move to the left.
Yeah, but here's the big thing. And look, I worked with him on supply side stuff. We're members of the Ways and Means Committee. He's an open borders guy. And I know that you worked in government relations and you go behind the curtain. I've taken to explaining it. He spells conservative with a K in terms of K Street and open borders.
Yes.
And this is so different. And I want to get Peter in on this too. Peter, 20 years ago, when Bob Dole was falling behind, very quietly, we made some changes. Sure, the Washington Post talked about it, but Newt didn't step center stage and say, hey, we're abandoning Bob Dole to save us. And what we're getting with Ryan is this, hey, look at me, hey, look at me. Aren't I a dreamboat? And shouldn't you make me president in 4 years? It's unseemly, and it's not politically pragmatic at all.
Well, I don't know that I agree with you completely. I think that Paul Ryan is assessed the situation as follows: that Donald Trump, with these most recent revelations and with the mainstream media coming down on him as they are, has gotten into a situation that, in his estimation, you may disagree, is no longer winnable. And so he's thinking in terms of, how do I salvage the House? Unfortunately, it's a miscalculation because there's so much straight ticket balloting in places where the Republicans can lose a lot of seats, namely in the suburbs of the big cities, for example, around Philadelphia and so forth. And straight ticket balloting, if you abandon Trump, means that instead of losing by 4 points, he might lose by 8 points. And that could be the difference between holding on to 20, 30 Republican seats and not holding on to them.
And so that is a key point.
You add it up to the ones that are vulnerable already simply because they have a large majority in a year that is not a Republican year. He could lose the House that way.
And that's the real problem. Listen, since the name of the program is America Talks Live, let's talk to some Americans at 1-877-639-7629, 1-877-Newsmax, to New York City for Anna Marie. Anna Marie, how do you see it?
Well, I'm a Trump supporter. And the way that I see it is that we have to respect the will of the people. We have 45 million people in poverty in our country, which are homeless. And Hillary Clinton wants open borders. As a woman, I make the financial decisions in my household. And we've had 40 years of deceptiveness. Hillary Clinton, all she does is lie. She lied to the FBI, she lied to Congress, and she lied to we the people. We have to take our country back. I'm concerned about the education of my children. We need more school choices. What they're trying to do is bring us into a social communist system like Venezuela.
Boy, that would be horrible, Anna Marie, but we hear what you have to say, and we appreciate your call in today to America Talks Live. So, Jack Burkman, we hear from Anna Marie, and yet the narrative just ceaselessly from the dominant media culture is women hate Trump. You heard Anna Marie in her own words say, here's what I'm concerned about. And I think a lot of people have those same concerns. And you know, it's very interesting. Trump mentioned the CNN ORC post-debate poll had Clinton winning by a landslide, 57 to 34%. But you go back and you take a look at the numbers, guess what? 58% of those sampled were Democrats. Then the remaining
One of the
40,
problems.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the problems, JD, with the success of outlets like Newsmax, Hear Us, and Fox News and other conservative outlets is now the alphabet networks can come out of the closet. Now they're out, and they're saying, look, we're liberal and we're going to attack Donald Trump. I mean, you saw the article on the front page of the New York Times today that it's some silly article. Could Donald Trump even get a job? Could he get past the human resources departments? I mean, they're now putting op-eds on the front page. The New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN. They're pretty much just out of the closet liberals in mass attacking
Point well
Trump.
taken. And even though, Peter, you are a professor of business and economics at College Park, let's face it, most campuses lean way over to the left. But historically, I've been talking to people, and this makes the bias against Goldwater in '64 look like a walk in the park. Are we wrong about that? Yeah. 30 seconds. Yeah.
Well, no, I think you're absolutely right. I remember the Goldwater election and the environment on campus in those days. And what's more with the media was just simply more even-handed. I mean, you got people like Harwood at NBC coordinating their activities with the Clinton campaign and then masquerading as a correspondent, not as an opinion person on the network. That's absurd.
Yeah, that whole thing with Harwood, I got to tell you, from here on out, the Republicans in presidential debates better just say, we're going to go to a Lincoln Douglas style with no moderator, but with a clock. Or maybe on second thought, they can let a guy who used to run the House.
I think what they ought to do is get some sort of professor, to be honest.
Oh, well, that's pretty good. Although I think a guy used to preside over the House who works at Newsmax TV might be a good choice. At any rate, gents, time's up right now. Stand by. More with you and more of your calls. It's America Talks Live, Hour 2. We're just getting warmed up. Stay with us.